Welcome to the next episode of the Austin Bar Association's Council of Firsts. I'm your host, Amanda Arriaga, First Latina Bar President. In today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different. We've partnered with the National Conference for Bar Presidents to do a series of interviews with bar leaders from around the country here in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm happy to introduce you to all of these leaders that you might not know because they're not from Austin. Today, the Austin Bar talks to NCB President Robin Wolpert. She invited us to record some episodes of the Council of Firsts at the annual National Conference of Bar Presidents mid-year meeting. So, Robin, I want to start from the beginning. Why did you want to be a lawyer?
Well, I started my career interested in the rule of law, so I got a PhD in political science. So my field was political psychology, constitutional law, and it's something called cognitive and behavioral economics. It's like how you quantify public opinion and views of institutions. And so I loved the rule of law and I wanted to study it deeply, so I became a professor. And then I was teaching. My tenure track job was at University of South Carolina. And I'd been teaching for a while. I started at Georgetown and then at South Carolina. And after teaching for a while, I was like, I kept inspiring my students about all these people who created social change through the law, like Martin Luther King or Thurgood Marshall or Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and how they made a huge difference in society. And then I just thought, I'm not in action, like I'm teaching people and I have knowledge about the law, but I want to be in action and do it myself. So I decided to go to law school so I could make a difference in people's lives and, create social change.
Well, it's funny because one thing that I learned about you is your LinkedIn profile describes you describe yourself as a lawyer, leader, and political scientist working to enhance justice inside and outside the courtroom, and you're most inspired by wicked issues facing society and people. So this makes perfect sense that it's because you started as a professor of political science, and then you shifted into taking it into your own hands. So kudos for you. Some people would have just stayed on the path of being a professor, but you want to do things and make the change.
Yeah, I want to be the one in action.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So one of the ways you're making the change is through NCBP. What does NCBP mean to you?
So sometimes, you know how words are symbols, and so some things are beyond words. So NCBP is like that for me because it conjures up like passion, deep relationships with people, where we're all committed to making the world a better place. And there's this energy at NCBP. So it's like you can barely grasp it in words, but there's a energy within NCBP where people are really committed. And I say word really, I mean, it doesn't even describe what we do. We're so committed to making bar leaders the best they can be that we're unstoppable about it. We will do everything we can, and we want to be creative and innovative. And NCBP is also kind of a breathless place. If you come to our meetings and you started coming this year, but over time, what I've seen is the pace is breathless because someone will have an idea and then someone will blurt in and add something, and then it just builds and builds and builds. And then the whole group creates something that no one person could ever have dreamed of. And it's because of the diversity of points of view that you see with NCBP, the depth of experience that people come with from all backgrounds, all kinds of experiences. And so I think we offer a unique product that no one else could offer, which is, being there for bar leaders to be the best they can be. We're like the unlockers of potential, of human potential and possibility. So I think of us as possibility. And then NCBP, it's also curiosity and awe. Like we're in awe of other human beings and what they could do for the world. And we're curious about other people and other backgrounds. And so we're inclusive. We're an organization where everyone belongs here. So I would say we're an organization where I would say action. We're in action. We're in passion. And we're going to make the difference. We're going to make the difference in the world.
Well, and to tie together your background as a political scientist and your interest in rule of law, you now want to add that to some of what NCBP is looking at. So why is it important not just to talk about rule of law and democracy, but as lawyers to do something about it?
We can read books about democracy and we can read books about the rule of law. But actually, Walt Whitman talked about democracy as an unfulfilled promise of America. So he said, democracy is like a poem. It's an unfulfilled poem of America. And I always think about that because every person has to rewrite all the time and recreate what democracy means. And that's why, if we're co-creators of what democracy means in terms of who participates and what ideas get to be put into action to make people's lives better, democracy is actually a vehicle for human potential, for possibility, for unlocking the liberty and personal expression of everyone. Democracy goes hand in hand with the best health outcomes. Democracy goes hand in hand with economic prosperity and happiness. In fact, the World Happiness Report that comes out every year talks about the inextricable link between happiness and individual prosperity. So if democracy is a way for individual liberty and self-expression and potential to be realized, why wouldn't we all be all in the game of democracy? So you could read about it, but then you can go do it. And when you're in action, there's something else that happens when you're in action. You become democracy. You become that freedom. You become it because you're expressing it. Who you are is freedom and liberty and individuality. So I like being in action because it actually fulfills human potential. But in terms of what we're doing, rule of law is essential to so many things we take for granted. Economic stability. Just thinking about the fact that there are companies with jobs all depends on the rule of law and stability in the rule of law and democracy. What people can say and what fields they might go into, what they might contribute as an engineer, as a physician, as a lawyer, whatever you might be, as an artist, is all dependent on having a stable rule of law that permits people not to worry about survival, but to then unlock what they can do. So that's why we're in the game of democracy in the end.
Well, and so a potential slogan for NCBP, or at least the hashtag of this episode, I think, is become democracy.
Yeah.
Join NCBP, become democracy.
And be it.
And be a democracy.
Yeah.
So besides rule of law, the other thing that you've been really passionate about embedding in NCBP is DEI. Why is that so important to you to embed DEI in all that NCBP does?
So one of the biggest things about NCBP is that everyone belongs here. And I think that when you know that you belong everywhere, then that empowers you to contribute so much. And so why wouldn't we want to create an environment where everyone belongs here? And so that means we are going to be better than any one person could be. And like I was telling you about how NCBP works, that breathless pace of innovation that happens at meetings where people contribute from all sorts of perspectives. And then we get this product, this idea that we're going to help promote for lawyers and bar leaders no one else could have created. And when you think about that kind of creativity and innovation, it's just not possible without everyone belonging here. So how do we embed it? Well, we make sure that everyone feels welcome and we value difference. But we don't just say, I value difference. You have to be in action on it. So people know when you're authentic about valuing difference. Like, you can say it and then you watch people's behavior and they don't exemplify it. They're not it. But you know when people are really welcoming and they really do value difference because they're like, wow, you're different from me and that's cool. How boring is it to just hang out with people just like you? How boring. It's like listening to yourself talk all day. That's so boring. But if you hear from other people, you're like, I want to be in awe. I want people to shake me up with something new, something I haven't heard before, another way of saying something or another way of thinking. And that's the belonging really makes that happen. And that's, again, what NCBP stands for.
So from all that you have seen and everything that you've researched, all of your background, do you think the legal profession is going in a good direction for being more diverse, equitable, and inclusive?
I think that all the DEI work has created a floor, an expectation that, of course, DEI is important. And when you have that floor, then people start to internalize it. And so people, I think, will say diversity is valuable. Even if they don't agree, they know that that's the way the world is. And so we're creating a reality based on agreement. So agreement, the way reality happens is we decide what reality is based on agreement. And I think there is a baseline agreement in our profession that diversity is valuable. And that is important because then you can escalate efforts to really create that inclusive excellence that we just heard about in one of our programs today. Inclusive excellence begins at the bottom of saying, of course, diversity is important. And then once you start talking about it enough, you start being it. And once you be it and you're in action, things happen. So I don't think you can erase that from people. You can't erase it because you just see the benefit every day in your interactions. So once you be it, you can't unbe it. It's who you are.
What advice do you have for lawyers who want to follow in your footsteps?
I would say unfollow me. Don't follow me. Unfollow me because every individual is so unique and so precious and special that if they can achieve the greatest gift in life, which is to be yourself. So if your greatest gift in life is to be yourself, then you don't want to be following anyone. You want to go your own path and you want to contribute what's uniquely yours. And so that's what I would say is find people who can help you, teach you how to move up and get the experiences you want so you can be the best lawyer you can be and be the best bar leader you can be, but always bring that precious, unique self and be that self in your life, and you will have really achieved, exactly what you should be doing.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I think that the audience is going to love this discussion, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.